Good afternoon and welcome to Markets Today. I'm your host, Mbithe Muema. Today's an interesting day, the 13th of February 2020, just one day before we get to the International Day for Lovers. What are your plans, and are you loving on the Nairobi Securities Exchange? Well, at least the investors have been showing a lot of love in as far as some of the key stocks are concerned on the NSE. We'll be giving you an update to tell you what's happening, what are the foreigners doing, what are the locals doing, what are the stocks to look out for. Are there any corporate news that you need to be aware of as you get into the trading day, as well as plan for your next week of trading? But this is what we have lined up for you after our chit-chat session, which will cover the corporate news as well as the NSE highlights over yesterday's trading session. Fixed income for retail investors. Have you ever invested? Do you even know the process of investing? Do you even know that there are current issuances that are out there? There's a 15-year paper that is out there. There's no rate attached to it as yet. There's also a 25-year paper that the Central Bank of Kenya has reopened. Get this, they will be giving a coupon of 13.4%. What can you do? What should your considerations be if you're looking to invest in this particular asset class? That is a conversation for later on, and I will be giving you the highlights in as far as who our guest of the day will be to take us through this conversation as we get into the second part of this show. Circling back into the Nairobi Securities Exchange, as I said earlier, it's the month of love and the NSE is experiencing a lot of it. Can you imagine yesterday's turnover was almost 10 times higher than the previous day's turnover? 1.12 billion to be exact is the value that was traded at the NSE. What were the counters that were driving this volume? Up there we had Safaricom, 12 million shares traded at between 30.75 and 31.7 shillings. We also had KCB trade 3.8 million shares at a price point of 50.75 all the way up to close to 52 shillings per share. One of the surprise movers that we saw yesterday, two actually, East African breweries, hardly trades, but we did see a huge trade go through. 866,000 shares were traded, again range bound from 212 to 222 shillings per share. Now recall, East African breweries, half-year results came out 1.5 weeks ago. They have increased the dividend payout that they are giving to shareholders for the interim dividend. 20% up is what the investors should be expecting when they receive a 3 shilling dividend for the half-year results that were announced at the end of January. The key thing to look out for, key dates to look out for, 28th of February. That's the record date. What does that mean? If you are on the register by the 28th of February this month, then you will actually be able to get 3 shillings per share depending on your holding. So we do expect to see a bit of an upsurge on price, just largely because of the interim dividend, with investors who want to lock in this dividend buying this particular stock. Key thing for us yesterday, 866,000 shares traded between 212 to 222. What was the other surprise mover? Absa Group, yes, you know that is formerly Barclays Bank of Kenya. We saw about 2 million shares also traded at the price point of 13. Actually, sorry, it was 10.3 million shares traded at the price point of 13 shillings per share. Nothing much has happened in terms of any change to the operations of the company. There has been an official change from the name Barclays Bank of Kenya to Absa Group, and that is the trading name on the stock. What is happening then today on the stock market? Again, top trades, Safaricom and the banks, and we're getting to a space where Safaricom and the banks, and once in a while East African breweries and BAT tend to be dominating trades on the stock exchange. At least for last year, there were about 73% of the total trades that were happening on average each and every other day on the securities exchange. Now, we always ask ourselves, fine, these are very common stocks and there's a lot of excitement around them. Should they be part of your investment portfolio? In other words, should you be chasing what the rest of the market is doing and actually falling into that kind of peer pressure? I hope you have been watching us over the last couple of weeks, because we've been looking at the different industries and trying to understand the investment case for all these different stocks. So that's a conversation that we have been having ongoing, and we usually have an interesting segment on Friday where we say, ask Mbithe, ask us what would you like to know, ask us whether you should be investing and looking like everybody else and being part of the 73% of the people who are determining turnover on the stock exchange, focusing on the top 6 stocks on the market. Now, that aside, a lot of excitement on equities. What is happening in the fixed income space? Now, Fixed income space is normally dominated by institutional investors. You have the banks that tend to make up about 50% of trades. Then you have the fund managers that tend to be about 20 to 30% of any trades that happen in fixed income. When we're talking about fixed income, we're talking about the Central Bank of Kenya issuing bonds and bills on behalf of the government of Kenya. When we're talking about T-bills, we're talking about the 91 T-bill, we're talking about the 182-day T-bill, we're also talking about the 364-day T-bill. When we're talking about bonds, it's any paper that the government of Kenya issues that has a tenure of more than a year. So anytime that the government comes through and they're looking to raise money to finance the government operations, you will see the central bank issue either T-bills or T-bonds. Now, for the treasury bonds, there are two issuances that are out in the market. There is a new issuance for a 15-year bond. The coupon on this, which is, in other words, the rate of return you expect to get on this, it's still not been determined. In other words, Central Bank of Kenya has told the investors to determine and price this particular paper. What should a good price point be? Then there is a 25-year paper that has also been reopened. This paper was initially issued in 2018. It has about 23 and a half years remaining on its tenor, and it has been issued with a coupon of 13.4%. This is how I look at it. If I wanted to put aside money for retirement, I'm wondering, can I take all the funds up to date and invest them in this particular paper? Can I get 13.4% every year from now till the year 2063? But more importantly, how would I actually actualize this particular intent that I have? This is a conversation that we will be having later on in the show when we're talking about fixed income and you as a retail investor. How can you possibly participate? And if you are an institutional investor, where should you price the funds that you want to allocate to the government? And should you even be interested in taking that kind of risk in Kenya? Should you be giving money to the government of Kenya and waiting to get it in 2063? Will we still be a state, or what should the key considerations be? This is a conversation that we will have later on in the show. Engage with us on Twitter, that is Metropole TV. Also engage with me directly, that is at Mbithe Muema on Twitter. Give us all the questions, all the things that you want to know about fixed income and investing in the bonds that the government issues on a regular basis. We want to know your comments. We want to know if it is even an area of interest or not. We take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We will see you in a few.